Any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That has been approved. Item 4, resolution, standard of conduct and methods of procurement for CDBG grant projects. We're wearing CDBG out.
We voted them out, they were us out with all of this, but it is what's required for us to be able to get the funds, so we have to wait through it. Whereas the city of Wetumpka, Alabama has been awarded Community Development Block Grant Fund from the Alabama Department of Economic and Community Affairs. Whereas implementation of any CDBG project requires that the city of Wetumpka to comply with all regulations in accordance with the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended, along with associated programmatic guidelines as adopted by DECA. And whereas one such requirement is that the city of Wetumpka implement said CDBG programs in accordance with written standards of conduct and methods of procurement. Now therefore be it resolved by the city of Wetumpka, Alabama, Section 1, that the attached standards of conduct, which is attachment A, and methods of procurement, which is attachment B, are adopted for the use with any and all CDBG projects implemented by the city. Section 2, that the Alabama state bid law and the public works bid law be followed in conjunction with the federal common rule as adopted by DECA. Section 3, that the said policies are hereby adopted by the city of Wetumpka, Alabama, for the purpose of implementation of current CDBG projects and will remain in effect for the purpose and future CDBG projects until said policies are otherwise amended. Passed, adopted, and approved on this the 5th day of January 2012.
Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the standards of conduct provided in this resolution.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Thank you. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So this resolution has been approved. And the new business. In the first reading, ordinance to amend flood damage prevention, ordinance 98-5.
In 1998, there was an ordinance adopted for flood damage prevention, which was required by the FEMA and for all of the flood areas within the city. New maps were done several months ago. We're now required to update our ordinance. It is quite a lengthy document. Our ordinances have to be published in the paper. We are not adopting a new ordinance. We are just amending the current ordinance. The building department has worked on it with the department in FEMA. That our city attorney has worked on it, and we feel that we have made the amendments that will bring us into compliance with this. And what it really amounts to is that we are just one particular thing throughout the old ordinance made reference to the building inspector instead of building official. So it's some terminologies as much as anything. And it has some rearrangements, some dates have been changed, and then the final section of the ordinance says that ordinance 98-5 shall be modified as amended by this ordinance and shall result in a restatement of the city's flood damage prevention ordinance, which shall hereinafter be known as the 2012 Flood Damage Prevention Ordinance of the City of Wetumpka. The restatement is incorporated herein by reference and is available in its entirety in the office of the city clerk of the City of Wetumpka, Alabama. So this is the first presentation of it. We don't vote on it. It's available, any and all of it, for anybody that wants to go in it. Are you satisfied with that?
Along with the maps that are incorporated by reference as well.
Right.
Mayor,
Yes.
are those the flood maps that are up there?
These are the flood maps.
Could I get a copy?
Oh, yes, sir.
This is the copy.
You want to
The whole thing.
I want my district, I want a copy of my district.
We can, I think we can get what you want.
Okay.
each one of those unfolds into a big section, so.
All I want is my district, and that, I will say.
I don't know that we can get it just that way because the zones on that don't fall into the districts, so. But we'll get.
Or maybe we can discuss it, and I wanna find out what is and isn't. Thank you.
I would like to, also, on that.
Once it gets up.
It might be.
I think this document's, quite important. I know that I have an opinion about FEMA and them being out of control. In '98, they put most of West Wetumpka in a floodplain. It took downtown buildings out of a floodplain. A building that I paid insurance and has pictures of a boat floating inside of came out of a floodplain. It's my understanding these new maps are putting those buildings back in a floodplain. I haven't seen them yet. But, for instance, people who own lake houses are now in floodplains because the upward dam could break. So each individual is now having to go through, and we discussed this a couple of years back, that, you're having to hire individually a surveyor to prove your point, whether you're in a floodplain. So these maps are indiscriminately, in my opinion, drawn, but now you have to prove that you're not in the floodplain. And there's a cost associated with that proof. And individually, you're willing to pay that $300 or $400 when this comes up that your bank calls you, or that the sale of your home. But when you take a look at this as a class action problem, it, in the millions of dollars this is costing our community.
Yeah, I think, I know of people who got caught in this before and had to prove, lived on Tuskegee Street and other streets, that they were not in that floodplain, so I'm sure FEMA would be willing to listen to your complaint. I don't know
I know,
how
it's
far
tough.
you're gonna get with it, but,
If you come at it individually, I think they'll listen to your, but unless you come at it with a class action, like a city level or a state level, or it's out of control. I mean, this is costing the taxpayer unprecedented amount of money, and it's not required. I mean, again, I'm paying flood insurance on a house on the west side that's never seen water in it. I used to own the Martin Hardware building, my building down on the river. I'd gladly put it back in the floodplain. It rightfully should have been, never taken out of. But it's, these maps, do we get to, where are they getting this data from?
well, that is a governmental agency that's doing that, and I don't know how you turn those wheels backwards. Tex, you're the one that deals with this.
Mayor, one thing I'd like to mention about FEMA and where we stand, you're talking about the cost. We talk as a community, town, city, we could not adopt this ordinance. And we could not do what they asked to do on these particular lots, individual lots. But it all goes back to, it works with our fire department, us, and everybody for the ISO ratings. It's a trade-off more or less, but we come out ahead. If we don't adopt FEMA, then our ISO ratings in the building department plummet. The higher our ratings are, the lower your insurance ratings are, and so forth, just like the fire department. So that's, and anytime you have a floodway and a floodplain, they're gonna require, this to be monitored by the local jurisdiction, which is, we have no option, the way it's monitored. But we do have an option to adopt this ordinance. If we adopt this ordinance, we get credit for it. If we don't adopt the ordinance, we still gonna go by their rules, but we're not gonna get credit for it. That's simple.
And you accurately described it.
And Tex, when you're dealing with a 100-year floodplain, and it's been 33 years since we have, 1979, since we really have been affected